Hi, my name is Austin Jenga Wanyoike, and this here is my beautiful wife.
Beatrice Mogora Njenga.
We are here to share our love story. We trust that it is going to be inspiring and it is going to be impactful. So this is our love story. Well, how we met, if I recollect, I think I first saw her at a friend's wedding. There was a wedding happening at church, and she happened to be part of the bridal team. And that is when I first laid my eyes on her. And that's the first time I saw her. She has a different story, but on my part, that's how I first met or saw her. And later on at the reception, she did say hi. I was really hoping she would say hi, but she actually did. I had not yet mastered the courage to say hi, but she did say hi, and that was the first time we met on my part. And whether you have a different story on how you first met.
My story is very different because I knew him ever since I think 2016. I used to see him in a fellowship that we used to attend in town, and he used to just pray a staircase ahead of me, and we didn't ever speak. I was just like, you know what, he prays so much, I may not be this prayerful, so let me just take my back seat. I'm here to search God. But we came to reconnect in 2019 during this friend's wedding, but now his tea party or his pre-wedding party. He offered to buy a cup of tea, but I declined. I was like, you know what, I can't. And then girls were all over him, and I was like, no, I'm not sure that I want to try this
Were they
out.
really?
Yeah, they were.
Right.
Then later that evening, he actually dropped me on my way home, but he never recalls. He knows that he was with some lady in a car, but he doesn't remember the lady. So the only time that he remembers that he saw me was during the wedding.
Yep.
Yeah.
I did make the first move. I remember this mutual friend whose wedding she was part of had her contact number. So I knew the only way I would get to her was through the mutual friend. So I remember I got the contact number and had it since August 2020, is it?
2019.
2019.
Yes.
And I remember it took me around 3 months for me to drop a text. So for 3 months I had the phone number in my phone, and somewhere about the lapse of the 3 months is when I texted her, decided to catch up, to know her rather, not to catch up, to get to know her. So, and it is in the course of that knowing one another then the move was made, as you may.
So after he had the contact, he had my contact, I knew that he had it for a couple of weeks. But on my end, I didn't have any hopes. I was just, you know what, whatever comes, it's okay, it's all right. I was still moving on with my life. Until now, I remember actually the date, it was 4th of December, 2019. It was around 5:03 p.m. I was leaving work. And so while packing, I had a vibration on my phone. And just checking up, it's a message, and the message was, hi. So the first thing I check out, who's this on the profile picture? Then I'm like, this is Austin. So I was like, okay. I actually didn't respond at that particular time. I responded it, I think, way later in the night after I had absorbed the shock. Why is he texting me? I took like a few hours to process, but I first rushed to my friend and I told her, by the way, there's someone who's texted. I don't know why he's texted, but I had the suspicious feeling that he's up to something. But you see, I didn't want to conclude or say, yes, this is it. So it took quite some time. At that particular moment, I was healing from a broken relationship. So I wasn't ready to date. So it was just, let me just say hi. Maybe he has his intentions, but my heart was very closed at that particular point.
So by the time I was first seeing her, actually, I had never dated since my mother gave birth to me for some funny reason. So the first time I actually saw her, this fire was ignited from out of nowhere. I don't know where it came from, but in my mind, I thought to myself, perhaps this might actually be it. So that was on the wedding day. So it took me the 3 months I've just narrated for me to gather up the courage to consult with my God whether I should actually make the move. And so by the time I was texting her, I was hoping that this would morph into something that would end up in a marriage. So my intentions were very clear at that time, because by the time I was reaching out, besides wanting to have a friendship and to have that as the foundation of this engagement, I was somewhat convinced that this was actually it. Yeah, so the text had intentions. It had undertones, but perhaps she could. The high was not just a high. It was much more than that. So we texted for into December and into the new year 2020. And it was basically, hi, how are you doing? Where are you spending the vacation at? And sometime in the month of February, I thought I might as well ask her out for our first coffee date. She was patient enough to communicate on phone for somewhat 2 months, I think.
Yeah, 2 months.
But in December I was not around. I was not in the city, so that's why. So in February I decided it's about time that we actually met face to face, and we had a conversation over tea. Yeah. So I was almost asking her to be my girlfriend or fiance, quote unquote, on the first date. And when I say I was that certain and convicted, it was as such. So I actually restrained myself from asking her to be my girlfriend on the first date. I was ready to do so. Yeah. But I decided, in the interest of gangster points and not looking too desperate, I might as well hold it in and pull it together. Exactly, yeah. Let's just play this thing low and cool. So that was the first coffee date. So it took another 2 weeks for me to get to ask her out on a second date. And I was determined, and I was resolved that this was it. So on our second date, which was around February, end of February, I think, 2020, took her to a nice place in the city, and at exactly 8:30 p.m. I remember the time. Yeah, it was that particular in my mind. I began the long speech aimed at asking her to be my girlfriend, with the intention of probably settling down. So, and for some funny reason, the moment I asked her the question, she went numb on me. She froze. She became like cold ice. The food, whatever she was eating, she stopped eating. It was that strange. And I remember I tried to warm up the space and the situation, told her it's okay, calm down, you do not have to say yes or no right now. And she actually did not say anything. And I was left guessing what the future was from there.
So as he said, when he asked me for to be his girlfriend, I went like, okay. I knew you'd come to this point of asking me to be your girlfriend, but I didn't think it was so soon. Yeah. That was the point. It was so soon. And in him asking me, there was no point of him telling me, it's just being a girlfriend, we know each other. So for me, I'm like, dude, we've just been speaking for 2 months. I feel that I'm not so ready for this. And his words were, I am ready to jump into this relationship, not for a short-term plan, but for something long-term. So instantly, my mind was like, okay, so I'm getting married to a person I know just for 2 months. So that one made me freak out. And then the worst part is I was headed for Kesha. And in this Kesha, I was ministering in the worship team. So already I had started preparing myself, tonight his ministry, just soaking in his presence. But now someone else comes and starts telling you yes. So it was all over the place. Confusing. And so that's what made me freak out, and I was not sure that this was what I was expecting.
Well, it's debatable what she says, that I had a bevy of women around me. Perhaps on the look of it, it seemed as such. Yeah. But as far as I'm concerned, I never really had a girlfriend. I didn't even know what dating really was all about. It was me, my books, and my God all throughout. So by the time I was making the move, I was jumping into this being a first timer. I was actually very tensed and scared at the same time, because I didn't know how ladies respond. At least I did know that the worst they can do is say no. That's the worst that could happen. I wouldn't die. I wouldn't. My head wouldn't go bald if she said no. So at that time, I was a first timer. I was really a first timer, and she was the first person I actually asked out.
I had my fears with love, or just to date again. I had my fears, and part of the things that happened way before even he asked me out to be his girlfriend, because now by the time we spoke in December, January, just behind the scenes I'd see this guy wants to say something, but he's not opening it up. So on the first date, I spilled my life to him. So I just told him, this is me, this is Betty, this is what she's done, this is what she's not done, this is what she's been through. And I did that to ensure that he comes to my page, so that he doesn't feel like I will just accept him very quickly. Again, I also needed him to understand where I had come from and what was going on in my life. So I had the fears. They didn't disappear immediately. They took quite some time to go away. It was a process of having him reassure me that this will not happen again.
The interesting bit about the journey of our relationship was that almost immediately after we started dating officially, the whole world went into lockdown. So really, we stopped working, both of us went home, and all activities came to a standstill. Because if I remember, I think we were just 2 weeks in when...
it was actually a week.
Just a week after we had officially started dating, when the schools were closed and everything else came to a standstill. So it was somewhat a challenge as we transitioned into dating proper, because she actually left Nairobi at the time, because no work was happening, and so she didn't see the need to stay around, and I was left in Nairobi, and so our primary mode of communication was phone and text and WhatsApp. So it was a really long distance relationship, if I may put it that way, at first, because we could not see each other. She was in a different county, and if you remember, the restrictions that were placed could not allow us to see each other. So our transition was a bit of a challenge, I would say, because we did not have the luxury of meeting frequently. We did not have the luxury of exploring new places with the intention of getting to know one another better, as perhaps normal relationships usually work. So we had to really adjust and try to see how we could work around building this relationship that was pretty young, with the intention of having it head somewhere. So we had to make very many adjustments, having it that we dated during the Corona season.
So being that we are in two different counties and we still had to maintain communication and just trying to be there for each other, I felt like the conviction that we're doing the right thing, I felt that it was our time to blossom, held us close together. And then the fact that there was no work, we had too much time to ourselves to keep speaking the whole day. So it was from the point of conviction. So we got the conviction, and so because the conviction was there, we kept moving and moving.
Yeah, also perhaps to add that we became a bit creative, and we'd have a Bible study, online Bible study together, in a bid to have us together. So we had to be a bit creative. Yeah,
I remember that.
Yeah, so that also really helped us develop the bond together. We had decided that we would get married and have a church wedding. So for us, as soon as the measures were eased, we began our wedding plans. So that's where we kicked it off. So the wedding plans started. We went and saw her parents. She first came and saw my parents. And we started the plans.
It's interesting because there is a backstory on how now we decided to proceed on settling down. So when I came back to Nairobi after the lockdown, and the lockdown was still there, I had to stay in Nairobi for 3 months, still at work, but not working full time. So he was living with his family at the time. So we didn't ever live together before the wedding. So I was living alone, and then I was living in the sides of Juja. He was living in Ruiru with his parents. And so it was just us meeting up. I go back to my place, he goes back to his parents' place. So that was the cycle that we had. But something interesting happened. It was in the month of, was it May? End of May. So for me, I am the one who disclosed to my mom that I am dating. And how I did it was just before lockdown happened. My mom needed to do something that was entailing legal matters, and his profession is a lawyer. So I organized a meetup, but for me the meetup was, Mom, I want you to meet my friend, and he's a lawyer, he can give the counsel that you need.
It was a trick.
So it was that I set a trap for him, because I knew if I told him I want to introduce you to my mom, it would have been an issue. Since we hadn't dated for long, it was just, I think, it was just a week. It's a week after I said yes to him, that's when I introduced him to my mom. So now that we've dated, that I said yes to him, I decided, my mom is my best friend. She's actually the one who I can tell anything and everything about my life. So I knew now I cannot make another mistake. I do not want my mom to hear that I'm dating and then nothing comes to pass. So I organized this meeting. We actually didn't go home, because I was like, no, I don't want you to know my home first. Let's meet somewhere in town. So my mom had to come all the way to the closest town, which is Thika town. And that's where we met. We had lunch. But my mom was sharp enough to know, so this is the friend who I'm hearing about. And we picked up that discussion after the lunch date. And I told him, so Mom, that's the person I'm in love with. And just pray with us and just talk with us. And the words that my mom told me is, kama Mungu amesema ndio ni yeye. So just, you have my blessing, continue with the relationship. So that's how we began dating, and how my mom knew that I am now dating again.
It really was a trap. And the humble, the kind-hearted me all along was thinking, she thinks I'm too good a lawyer. She already wants to recommend her mom as a client. And so I fell into the trap. Thinking about it going into the date with the mom, I thought it was going to be strictly, it's legal stuff, it's the legal talk, how can I help you and whatnot. So later on is when I thought, I don't think that, because the mom was really not into what I thought she wanted us to speak about. She really wanted to know more about me. So most of the questions were really targeted at how are you, who are you, how long have you been born again, and slowly it began to dawn on me that this really isn't it. This really isn't what I thought it was. So nilikubali tu mwishowe. Yeah, it was a trap, and I fell right into the trap. I do not know how word leaked out. Walls have ears, unfortunately. So I do not know how word reached my parents that Austin is somewhat in a relationship. Perhaps they had noticed I was on my phone a bit longer than I usually was, and they began to suspect it. So in essence, because I had not intended to introduce her to my folks at the time, and my dad knowing that I was of that opinion, that I introduced her as the last, at the very last stage. Yeah. So my dad actually called me in once during breakfast. And he told me right to the face, I hear that you are dating. Can you confirm this position? Is it true or not true? And I confirmed yes. And he was very incessant that he wants to meet the girl. My dad, unfortunately or fortunately, only has 3 sons. And so he is really excited the moment he hears that he's getting a daughter for a child, coming into the family. So the news was very exciting for him. So I did not even plan the meetup. It is he that planned the meetup. He even told me now she's going to come on this date. We're going to have lunch together and we're going to see how it works from there. Yeah. So I was given the dates and I communicated the dates to her and she came over. It was a very pleasant lunch, but she might not tell you, but she was bombarded with question after question after question. My dad is the pretty straightforward kind of gentleman. And I think most of them, wale wa kitambo are that kind. Yeah. Who are you? Unaenda wapi? Unasomanga, umesomea nini? Umeokoka miaka ngapi? Yeah, so you can imagine that for a first date might have been very frightening to her, but at least I had prepared her in advance.
When he called me, I think it was late in the night, and he told me, so the meeting for you to come home has been set up on this day. It was actually a Monday because it was a holiday. I was like, you know what? Mimi siendi. I am not ready for this. It took a lot of convincing that yes, I have to do this. I remember I called my sister and I told her, guy, mimi wacha nikwambie. So there's I have a sister who, if we get together, so everything just blows up. We forget that everyone else exists. So I called her and I told her, mimi wacha nikwambie. Mimi nimekaangwa, nimeambiwa naenda kwao Monday. Then she tells me, calm down. So because she is ahead of me, she told me, so do this, do this. She gave me the steps. So now the toughest part was that particular day. The particular day when I was going now for the introductions. I had gone to work. So his parents are very kind. So he was told, please go pick her up from work and bring her home. And that's what he did. I got to the gate. I have known his parents. I was at your home once just for a function, but then nobody knew what exactly was going on. It was just speculations. So I knew his mom and I knew his dad. So now on entering along the road, I saw his dad's car. And then his dad alighted. So he's parking the car and I said, this is my father-in-law to be. I'm like, no, I am not doing this. Let's go back.